guitar, blend with the gentle sound of the waves crashing against the shore. A serene melody weaves through the breeze.
Oh, I'm coming to you again from the backyard. I was hoping to do it at the beach, but time got away from me. Parenting, which is, what this page is about. So you get it. But I wanted to talk about ways that moms can downregulate and how that can be connected to travel. So, as you saw at the beginning of this video, I just got back from a girls' trip. I started a book club almost 18 months ago. And since then, we have met monthly and talked about and read a lot of different books. We've done a lot of different social gatherings. Had posted about it and said, "Do you guys, is anyone interested in doing a book club in my neighborhood?" And got a bunch of people, and it was so awesome. And since then, we've become super, super close, the ones that stayed around and stuck with it. And so we decided to go on a girls' trip this weekend. And I've done girls' trips before, but this is the first time that it was with all moms. Everyone has children, and it was such a different experience in terms of just connection and vulnerability, emotional stuff came up. It was like, as the caption is the title, road trips are just therapy with snacks. Like it was so much therapeutic work, which as a therapist, I love. I ask so many questions. I'm sure they were actually, one girl was like, okay, that's a lot of personal stuff. And I was like, tell me more. Um, but it was just so awesome. I'm so thankful to my husband who watches the kids while I get to go away on these book retreats. I've been on a couple different ones in the last year, and it feels really special that I get to step away and really fill my cup. It's so filling for me. I not only get to like sleep in, spend time with other women, enjoy beautiful places, and this time I really was reflecting on the topic of decision fatigue. It was funny because we kept having to make decisions like what restaurant do you want to go to, or who wants to drive, what room do you want to sleep in, and all of us were like, we don't really care. Doesn't That's whatever. We can go anywhere. We can eat anywhere. We have so much decision fatigue from being parents and making decisions that being able to just be like, we don't really care. Like, let's just go with the flow was so freeing and refreshing. We all like picked a different meal to cook. So like I did dinner the first night and someone else did, breakfast the next day. We were also reflecting on how nice that was that we were in charge of one meal and we had to think about it and make decisions. But the rest of the time, food was just like put out in front of us. We had snacks and we had wine and all of these things. And it just reminded me how important filling your cup up is. And this is tied into travel as well, because something I'm going to talk a lot about when dealing with anxiety and in conjunction with travel is making sure your cup is filled even when traveling. Because if your cup is not full, or at least partially full while traveling, it's going to be really, really challenging. And we need to be able to know how to do that. We need to be aware of our triggers. We need to be aware of what makes us spiral or what makes us feel overwhelmed or have decision fatigue, so that we can fill that cup back up, right? We all know the expression, you can't pour from an empty cup, and we truly can't pour from an empty cup. How do we fill our cup up so that we have the capacity to do the things that we want to do? Having a community, I think, is the biggest one. Having a support system, especially if you're a mom, they say it takes a village. It absolutely does take a village. We can't do the things that we want to do without help. That doesn't always mean that we have access to help, right? So finding even people that you can spend time with and do things with, who are maybe watching your kids while you guys are all hanging out, or finding groups of people who are at your church, or there's so many different resources, even if you don't have access to your own family or your own supports around you. I highly recommend Facebook groups. I think that Facebook groups are super underrated. I don't know, maybe that's not the case and everyone loves them. But I have found, if I have a question, if I have curiosity, if I want to learn something, so really like leaning into your community and people around you. As a therapist, when people come into my office and they're struggling with something, whether it's mental health, or they're feeling sick, or they're feeling overwhelmed, or they're feeling exhausted. And, it's not uncommon for people to start talking about medication or to start talking about, um, like quick fixes that we can throw at it. My first go to is always, are our basic needs being met? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating adequate food? And I'm not talking about dieting, but I just mean, is your body getting enough nutrients? Are you caffeine intake? All of these basic things. Once we get those cleared out of the way and we're still struggling, then like let's address the problem, right? But or in conjunction with, I should say. But what basic needs, or should be basic needs, are not being met? And I think a lot of that has to do with like how we feel and our cup being not full, right? So, making sure that you have a community and people that you can connect with, making sure that you are getting adequate sleep when you can. Now, with motherhood, we understand there are phases of life there. Not everyone's getting the best sleep, but how can we fit it in? How can we clear our plates, metaphorically, so that we don't have as much on our plate so that we can rest? How do we have a more minimal home so that we don't, this is what I'm working on, so that we don't spend all of our time cleaning, so that we can decompress, so that we can unwind? Do we have a hobby? Do we have something that can fill our cup and make us feel joyful? What do we do when our cup is just too full, right? And how do we how the sun is just so pleasant right now. Seattle in the summer, in the springtime is just next level. Thing to focus on is knowing our triggers. What are our triggers and what coping skills do we know help them? So, not avoidance generally, um, but what do we need to do to feel better? So, when I think about the girls' trip, actually, it happened. It happened. I don't know if you guys want me to share a story, but a big trigger for me when I'm anxious is getting sick. Because when I'm anxious, I will often get sick. And then I get anxious about potentially getting sick. My fight or flight response, as I've said in the past, is flight, and then it often will make me feel sick. So, something that can trigger that is feeling full. So, like if we go out to a big meal, or if I've had too many, like in this case, I had way too many bubbles. Like we were pounding Diet Coke like it was our day job this weekend. And so my stomach was just like not feeling great by the end of the night, and I then started feeling nauseous. We also soaked in the hot tub. So I then started feeling nauseous, and then that made me worry. And then I found myself like having all these spiraling thoughts of like, oh my gosh, I can never travel because what if I get sick while I'm traveling? And oh my gosh, I'm on a girls trip and like I don't want them to know. And I'm like sneaking, like trying to get into, just like all these things that are just so annoying. And of course, then I was like telling my friend about it, and she was like, "Yeah, no, I get that, and no, it was totally fine. Like, just go do your thing." But we just, like knowing these triggers, because that could prevent someone. I'm actively working on not letting those things stop me from doing the things I want to do, which a girls trip and traveling is absolutely what I want to do. But that could easily stop someone from traveling, from connecting with others, from having girl time, from being vulnerable, from being honest. And yeah, so I think knowing what those triggers are, you're going to hear me all the time talking about like knowing what your triggers are, and then knowing what useful, helpful, and proactive tools you can use to help you do the thing that you want to do, to help you feel capable and ready and good to go do the thing that you want to do. So, to recap, the three biggest things that I wanted to talk about today were finding a community, finding people around you that support you and love you and make you feel seen so that your cup can be filled, making sure your basic needs are being met: sleep, what you're eating, what you're putting in your body, what you're consuming, the media you're consuming, who you're spending time around. All of those things cycle into our system, right? And we feel it and we hear it, and it's there. And it impacts us, right? And it impacts how full our cup is. Lastly, is knowing your triggers and then knowing what coping skills help. So, breathing exercises, making sure that you're around people who support you and that you can feel comfortable with. Progressive muscle relaxation, or having coping skills. Like I like to have things with that I can use with my hands all the time. So having a drawing pad. I brought a whole table of markers and coloring books, and we all just sat around drawing all weekend and talking. And that keeps me more grounded and able to focus. So having things like that can be really, really helpful. So I recommend going on a girls' trip if you can, or going with your family, or going and getting out and doing something that's outside your comfort zone, that's new, that fills your cup so that you can come home and be a better version of yourself. Because I know that when I showed up on Sunday and came home, it was 80 degrees in Seattle and my cup was so full. I was so happy and I was ready to just conquer the week. I wanted to see my kids, I wanted to hang out with them. And I also was super connected and had all these memories and experiences with these girls that just are immeasurable. Like it was such an amazing experience. And so comment below your favorite place you've gone on a girls trip if you have any, or what your favorite coping skill is when you're starting to feel escalated or anxious, and I will chat with you guys soon.